You know, before rewatching this series for this video, I was genuinely curious, why would this just fall to the wayside? To the point where it's so obscure that I'm pretty sure that it only got a single DVD release. But having rewatched it, I kind of understand. Hello everyone, welcome to the Anime Void. I'm Brian, your host, and today I'm going to be reviewing the anime Blood Plus, as chosen by my subscribers. Now, if you want to ensure that you see my next monthly poll to vote on the anime I review for next month, you should be sure to subscribe, and while you're down there, why not give this video a like, because hell, who else is going to be talking about Blood Plus? But more importantly about the anime. Blood Plus is a mid-2000s series that was inspired by the movie Blood the Last Vampire, and subsequently, it also inspired the next anime, Blood C. These three anime have almost nothing to do with each other. They are part of the same anthology series, but they are separate timelines doing their own things. And that is only the beginning of the convolution of this series. Blood Plus follows the story of Saya Otanashi, who is a young amnesiac high school girl living in Okinawa with her adoptive family, her father George and her brothers Kai and Riku. And I do want to point out that our main protagonist, whose name starts with S, lives in a tropical setting with Riku and Kai, and their peaceful lives are upended due to the attack of mysterious monsters. And these said monsters and events all connect to our main protagonist in some way, who is given a special sword that helps them kill these monsters. And I have now demonstrated that I can make any story sound like a completely unrelated story by being vague enough. But in all seriousness, the plot of the story is actually a slow burn mystery drama with some monster fighting in it. And I do mean slow. It honestly felt like the plot didn't really get started until 4 episodes in. It was a lot of setup and introducing recurring characters and just all the different starts of various plot threads, most of which did come to fruition, though some did kind of get yada-yada'd towards the end there, which is disappointing. Normally, I don't mind that stuff, and it wasn't necessarily bad. It was, again, just slow burn, slow to get started, and it didn't feel clunky in the beginning, so that was fine. But if you go into this anime expecting high-octane, monster-slaying action, that's not exactly what you're going to get most of the time. Hell, a majority of the action and fighting throughout the entire series is quite lackluster to begin with. There are good moments to be sure, but the main takeaway is definitely the mystery and the drama of it all. The fighting is just kind of a special spice to add on top of it. Again, this is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is understandable that something like this wouldn't grab the attention of people, especially when it was a weekly series. It's all about the mindset you have going into this as to whether you'll be able to get into it or not. Just have your expectations for the story set. A thing that is bad, however, is the fact that some of the main characters, especially our main protagonists, can be quite insufferable. And that is not helped at all by the English dubbing. It's not that great. I mean, for instance, listen to how they pronounce Grigori.
This is the village where Gregory was born. Gregory is supposedly hiding somewhere outside this village. Gregory.
We should start looking for Gregory.
And I do want to also clarify a point that is specifically Grigory Rasputin. Yes, that one. But for the characters, Saya is the type of protagonist that does take a moment to get into gear, and by a moment I mean several episodes, but she has amnesia and she has PTSD that is very, very clearly defined. So it's understandable that she takes a bit to get going, and she does get her ass into gear eventually to fight these things that only she can kill. However, it is not a great thing that she is constantly shown to be physically weaker when compared to her major enemies. It is really not fun to watch her go up against her little sister Diva and her group of chevaliers when they just kind of body her most of the time, and the times where Saya wins, it just sort of happens. That's the thing that I can never wrap my head around with this series, is like they constantly show that the enemies are vastly stronger. Saya doesn't do any of the things they can do, like the teleportation fast movement thing. She doesn't really do that. Whereas these guys, they're constantly throwing trucks and stuff, and just like, well, not exactly, but you know what I mean. They're shown to be so strong. But then Saya beats them anyway, without really overcoming them. They just get beaten because the plot says they need to be beaten. I can't even call it plot armor. I don't know what to call it. I guess plot armor would be best. And you can say that the reasoning for this is the fact that Saya doesn't really feed on human blood regularly. She just gets like the transfusions, but then I can say she can rob a blood bank or some nonsense. There is no reason for this power discrepancy. And on top of it, towards the end, A, she's able to fight one-on-one with Diva despite the clear demonstrated power gap, and B, just the fact that they added the thing of Saya being close to her 30-year hibernation, so she kind of nods in and out. That was completely unnecessary, and also just kind of showed a lapse in judgment in terms of just like the story narrative, because they keep on focusing on the fact that, oh, she's going to fall asleep at any time now. But then a month later, she's still awake and then falls asleep. It's just like, okay, so you just did not think that through. You obviously didn't. And on top of this, Saya's own chevalier, Haji, does have this similar problem. He is constantly outclassed by higher enemies. You could make a drinking game of the amount of times that this man has been impaled. Though I will say that he is the most handsome piece of wet cardboard to exist. The amount of times where a scene would have been just generally improved, or the plot would have progressed smoother if Haji just emoted or spoke about something, is just incalculable. He was such a waste of space so many times. It's kind of hilarious. Though during the last 10 episodes, he does finally show his true strength. He was apparently holding himself back all of this time because of a bullshit reason.
When you looked at me, your eyes were filled with sorrow and fear. And ever since then, I have suppressed all my powers as a chiropteran.
Like, Haji, it's been almost 200 years since then. She probably stopped caring about that a very long time ago. You are putting both of you in such danger by doing this. But he was part of what I think is the only really good fight in the entire series. So bonus points for that. That fight was sick. But also, speaking of Chevalier in general, I do firmly believe that Saya's best friend, Kaori, should have become a Chevalier. Generally, I wanted to see her and Saya's friendship explored more in the series, and on top of that, I do believe that it would have been a good extra dynamic to have to really round out the cast and have that kind of interaction going through all the things that are going on. And yes, I did like this concept so much that I did commission art for it. Check out the artist in the links below. But the most insufferable character by far was Kai, and the was is actually important. For more than half the series, he was a pain in the ass to deal with. He was in way over his head, he thought his way was the right way, and just refused to listen to logic or reason. However, at one point he meets and interacts with a member of the Shift, or as I like to call them, Discount Organization 13. And I know that is the second Kingdom Hearts reference that I made in this video, but I swear it is appropriate. But after this meeting, Kai is able to get some much needed perspective and see the overall big picture. Though this weirdly gets Saya into this very, very nonsensical black and white tirade of all Chiropterans are evil and must be killed, we can't be friends with them, and I'm just like, honey, you are a Chiropteran. Haji is a Chiropteran. At this point, your little brother Riku is a Chiropteran. Why are you like this? So yeah, she went full hypocrite and just refused to listen to Kai's incredibly valid points that he was making. And since that point, Kai improved so much. He became an incredibly much needed and well-liked character throughout the rest of the series. And while I have been harping on the bad things I really just do not like about characters, I do love a lot of things about the rest of the characters. Like Lewis. I love Lewis. He's such a big, lovable guy. I trust him with my life. And I really like all of the Shift characters, especially Lulu. She is a treat. And then there's Mao, who is another character that had a great character art and progression. She was a stuck-up little princess, daughter of a Yakuza boss, but going on a vagabonding journey with a C-list investigative reporter, she really grew up as a person, and just, again, like Kai, is able to see the bigger picture. Overall, it is kind of weird. There isn't a singular character that I can just go on and on talking about what I like about them. It's just that I like all these little things from all of the other characters. All of the interactions, the personality traits, the quips, the quirks. All of them I really enjoy about the overarching cast. To the point where those little things that I like far outweigh the bigger things that I don't like. Fundamentally, what I can say about this series is that once it really gets started, I can't say that I hate it. There are, admittedly, a lot of narrative choices that just do not make sense. Plot lines that are dropped, and characters just doing purely illogical things. Moses, what the hell are you doing? This makes no sense! Stop it! Moses, look, I understand that you are really great friends with this guy, and you don't want him to be alone when he dies. But, by God, why are you killing yourself? This makes no sense in the slightest! You are actively harming so many other people right now. There are plenty of flaws that keep this anime from being great. Hell, it just barely ekes its way into being good. But I overall had a positive experience. The best way I can sum it up is that this anime has great potential, but it just kind of falters with it, and it's kind of disappointing. It doesn't completely flop with it, but it doesn't reach what it should be. Also, I know I don't talk about musical compositions with shows at all, but I do want to make a special exception for this one, because it is produced by Hans Goddamn Zimmer. Yes, the composer for The Lion King was the producer for the music in Blood Plus. The actual composer was Mark Mancina, a heavyweight in his own right, having worked also on The Lion King and Moana, and he himself composed Bad Boys. So with all of that in mind, I am genuinely so sad that Blood Plus isn't better than what it is. The music alone, with those two behind it, had to be such a huge part of the budget. And it definitely, the series did not take off the way they probably wanted it to. And it makes me wish that I could go back in time and try to help them make it better. Though I am honestly unsure if that I could, I would even be able to. Those kind of things are very subjective. And doing rewrites like that is just kind of very weird to begin with for me. So I'm not sure if I really toy with that idea in general. But that said, if anyone was interested in a what if Kaori was a Chevalier take, that I could be interested in doing, again, if enough people are interested in it. But that's really neither here nor there, is it? And hey, did you know that there's actually a manga that's a different telling of the story? Granted, I'm not sure if it's any, different, but, okay. If this video gets 100 views, I'll do a video on the manga. Kinda deserves it. But with all that said and done, thank you so much for watching, and I have to catch you next time in the void. Later.